Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. We have a wonderful guest today, all about good thinking. And we're so grateful to have Marshall Sylver with us today, aren't we, Scott?
Heck yeah, we've got the Marshall Sylver right here at our studios.
That's
if
right.
we had some.
This is going to be exciting. Marshall, how are you?
I am always awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Nice. So first
Thank you.
question, who are you and what do you do?
I'm nobody, and I'm frankly I'm semi-retired and very happy about it. I'm actually hanging at my beach house down here in Carlsbad, California. I see we both have an ocean behind us, but yours is magical. I just watched it change, so that was pretty cool.
Wonderful. So Marshall, let's talk about you and about how you've helped others. How does it feel when you change people's lives the way that you do? How does it feel to you inside to do that?
I've been on stage since I was 7. I started off, we were very poor, and I loved magic. And so I discovered very early on how to earn money doing what I loved, doing magic shows. And when I was 16 years old, I got hypnotized by a guy named Dr. Michael Dean. He was the preeminent hypnotist for a long time, back in like the 80s, in the 70s. He was the name in hypnosis. And he kind of retired to San Diego, was doing shows on Friday and Saturday nights. And at 16 years old, he hypnotized me. And it was a remarkable experience to me. I went home that night and I asked myself, was I actually hypnotized? Or was I just doing what he had told me to do? And I thought, well, what if he had told you to be confident, Marshall, and you just decided to be confident? What if he had told you to get off drugs? Because at 16 years old, I was addicted to drugs. I said, what if he had told me to go out and be a multimillionaire? And because he told me I could, I believed that it was certain, and I just went out and took the actions. I realized if that was hypnosis, which, as you guys know, it is, if that was hypnosis, then it's the most powerful force on the planet. And it was in that epiphany that my whole world changed. I hypnotized 6 subjects back when I was 17. 3 of them, the first 3 went exceptional. Even to this day, I would say mind-boggling results. The challenge was the next 3, not so much. And so, because I didn't fully understand what I was involved with, I thought I'd lost my magic. I thought I'd lost the hypno mojo. And so I didn't really touch hypnosis for a while. And then I was in my early 20s, 21 to 23. I'd gone through 8 jobs and 8 apartments in 2 years. And one of the gigs was a DJ gig, and it was for a mobile DJ service. One of the other guys that was working for the company suddenly disappeared, just gone. And he was my friend. And so I didn't realize that he had left the company for about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks later, I saw a flyer on the wall of a military base that I was doing DJ work at, and it was him. And it was him as a hypnotist. And I looked at the flyer and I gave him a call. I said, dude, what's going on? He said, I stopped doing DJ work. I said, why? He said, I was getting paid $250 for 4 hours of DJ work. I get paid $2,500 for a 1-hour hypnotic show. And I said, well, sign me up. I said, who did you study with? And he told me that he had studied with a guy named Gil Boyne. I don't know if you remember Gil. Gil was the #1 teacher of hypnosis in the world at the time. And so I signed up immediately for Gil's class, and very soon after went to study with him. Anybody that knows Gil or knew Gil knows that he had an interesting personality. I used to always call him Yoda because he kind of looked like Yoda to me. But Gil had this 50-hour course, 10 hours a day, 5 days straight. And within within the first morning of watching Gil, I realized that I knew everything he was teaching. I knew already because I'd been studying it for years, scholastically through books and such. So I knew that I knew. So I got back in my car in Glendale, California, up near Los Angeles, drove back down to San Diego where my home was. The next morning, I cold called on a nightclub chain called Carlos Murphy's. It was Carlos, a Mexican restaurant, and Murphy's, an Irish pub combined, Carlos Murphy's. And I sold at that point, uncreated, it didn't even exist yet. I sold my hypnotic show 4 nights a week and came back that day. So it's the second day. I've missed half of the first day. I've missed the first half of the second day. I came back right after lunch on the second day. And as I'm walking through the door, Gil is ranting. And what he's ranting about is people are not committed and they never get success and they never stick with something long enough and they show up late and they don't take it seriously. And that's why people fail. What do you have to say for yourself? And I said, Gil, I was so inspired by what you taught us yesterday morning. At lunch, I got in my car, drove back to San Diego. This morning, I cold called a nightclub chain and I sold my brand new hypnotic show 4 nights a week. And I don't even have a show yet. And without missing a beat, he says, and he's the exact reason people succeed. And that was it. I realize I haven't really answered your question. How does it feel to me when I change the quality of somebody else's life? Well, as you know, I've been doing hypnosis since I was 17 years old. And I've hypnotized millions of people. In our China trips alone, when I go over to China, they'll put me in front of 10,000 people live in an arena through an interpreter. And I will hypnotize everybody in the arena through that. I don't do a lot of private hypnotherapy anymore. It's just not the highest and best use of my time. I admit I'm a capitalist and I like making money. I like living on the beach. I like living in a palace in Las Vegas. I love people. Do not get me wrong. But anybody, if I were to say I'm doing this just because I love people, that would be complete and utter bullshit. It wouldn't be true. The truth is, yes, I do love people. And the truth is, I love being happy and I love making money. And if I can combine all 3 of those things, so be it. If all it was about really helping people, my kids have very expensive habits. My wife likes to shop. I like flying in private jets. And so if there was no money involved, I would do something different.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So let's talk.
I apologize if that brutal honesty isn't what people normally talk about on the show, but that's true for me.
No, that's what we want. We want it raw and pure because we're on your highway, not nobody else's highway. We're down your magical psyche highway today.
Well, just so we know, then the speed limit's 120. Let's go.
Hey, I'm ready.
If it's my highway, my rule's 120. Let's go.
I thought 120 might be a little slow for you there, Marshall.
No, I got kids. Got to watch out for the car seat in the back. So just being conscientious.
Okay, so
Nice.
let's talk about this. So I noticed that you take hypnosis and you've combined over the years with helping a lot of people, and you've been connected a lot with investments and things like this and the investor crowd. And, there's a lot of big money in that as well. So what's that like?
As you said, right before we went live, you used to work for a real estate investment training company, Don Burnham, phenomenal man, by the way. And yes, a lot of my work is inside of the real estate investing community, single family, multifamily, tax liens, you name it. And I've trained people inside of there because my experience is that the reason most people don't succeed has nothing to do with their knowledge. Usually they have the knowledge and they are unable to consistently execute. They're not able to do what they need to do on a consistent basis. And it's always got to do with fear. They're afraid things won't turn out. Their investments will go south. And so they just don't follow through. And the real estate investing groups often bring me in to increase people's confidence level, teach them better communication strategies. And then ultimately, the most important piece in real estate investing for sure, but pretty much any business, is I teach people what I call irresistible influence, using language patterns and communication gambits in such a way that other people are inspired to beg you for what you're selling. And more importantly, have them believe it was their idea.
Nice.
Awesome.
So how do you do
I've heard you say I've heard him say in the past, if I like to open my mouth and people just give me money.
Yep.
When
So how do you
That's
put
awesome.
your ideas in their head where they think it's their ideas? So what methods do you use for that?
Communication, language patterns. Anybody that has kids knows you can't argue with a kid. The kid has to figure it out for themselves. And so my forte is I've spent a lifetime in influence, in sales, in magic. I did magic, and Sir Scott, I know you know this. Magic requires people to be massively empathetic. You must view the world from your spectator's eyes, because if you don't view it through their eyes, then there's no deception, there's no magic there. And so my job is to be massively empathetic, get into their head, know what they're dealing with, know what their concerns are, and address those concerns in advance while I'm building up their desire and getting them to come to the conclusion that, hey, we've covered just about everything. I think the best thing right now would be for me to buy whatever you're selling. And I say, hey, when you're right, you're right. I wouldn't tell you what to do, except you clearly are intelligent and clearly know what's best for you. So let's take care of that investment.
That's right. So let me ask you now, we've had people on here who some claim that if a person doesn't want to be hypnotized, they can't be, and others claim you can hypnotize anybody, anytime, anywhere. So where do you stand on that pendulum?
Well, ask Joe Biden. He knows that truth. Ask our political system right now. They can make anything unreal appear to be real. So whoever said that, they apparently either weren't a hypnotist or they were idiots. Yes, of course you can hypnotize everybody. You guys know it's not difficult to hypnotize people. It's difficult to bring them out of the trance they're already in, telling them who they are and who they aren't and what they can be, what they can do, what they can have. So my experience has been, obviously I've been doing this for over 40 years now. And my experience has been that when a hypnotist in particular says not everybody can be hypnotized, what they're really saying is I don't possess the skill set. That'd be kind of like, in my opinion, a teacher saying, well, not everybody can learn, not everybody's able to learn. And it's the teacher's job to figure out how to break through to the student. Yes, everybody has different capacity. Everybody learns in different ways. But even an idiot savant, even somebody that might be labeled learning disabled, they can learn. I mean, ask Annie Sullivan. Here she's teaching Helen Keller how to communicate, and Helen Keller is deaf, mute, and blind. So if you tell me somebody can't learn, I say, well, maybe you can't teach. That's the challenge. So, and it's kind of the same thing though. And again, and forgive me if I'm being too mouthy. It's my nature, for number one. Number two, we may not get a chance to talk again, and I may not get a chance to speak to your audience. And so one of the things that I believe, our challenge, we've gotten to a place where people are so concerned about being politically correct that they don't have opinions anymore. And people are so concerned about people being offended that they can't even tell a joke anymore without people jumping down their throats and, finding them wrong in some way. And I don't know about anybody else. I got too much of my own stuff to deal with to judge other people. And furthermore, while I'm not religious, if I was religious, Christianity would be the closest description to how I live my life. And there's a piece of scripture that says, judge not, lest ye be judged. And what I think that says is if I'm a judgmental person, if I judge people, I judge other people, I will judge myself too. And I don't want to judge myself. I muck it up daily. I fall short of my own expectations in just about every moment of my life. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just want to do better. And at the same time, though, I don't spend any time needing other people's approval. Not anybody's, not my wife, not my kids, not you, not the world in general. I want to please God. I do love God deeply. And although I'm not religious, we all know what's right or wrong. We all know if we're harming somebody else. We all know if we're doing the ethical and moral thing. We always do. I think it's a human condition that some people just choose to live in denial and like to pretend like, oh, I didn't know that you were offended. Oh, I didn't know that I was stepping on your toes. I just saw a video briefly. It was a short video. This woman is getting body slammed to the ground by a cop. And they're making a big deal about, oh my God, police brutality. Number one, they don't know what happened before the clip started. Number two, in the clip, This woman's in handcuffs. She's being led to the cop car, and she goes over and stomps on the cop's foot. Well, what the hell else is he supposed to do? In due respect, whether the cop was right or wrong, shut your mouth, get in the car, wait till you have an upper hand. Don't try to stomp on his foot. It's never going to go well. But I think that most people don't understand there's no right or wrong. It's not right or wrong to stomp on a cop's foot. There's a consequence, though. And the consequence is you might get body slammed into the pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds.
That's an old fuck around and find out thing.
I agree, man.
Yeah, that sounds like the
That's
old
what it is.
thing. So let's move to the side a little bit here. Who were your mentors, and who are your mentors that you look up to?
I've had a lot. You know, I mentioned one already, Gil Boyne. Not only was my first instructor of hypnosis beyond my self-study, he was my first instructor of hypnosis. My first mentor, and the one that I give credit to the majority of my successes, because he really got my brain thinking. I met him when I was 12. He was 9 years my senior. He had a magic shop down in San Diego. This particular mentor then went on and reinvented Halloween, made probably a couple $100 million after he reinvented Halloween, and is currently the president of the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners. Excuse me, I take that back. The American Academy of Magical Arts. He's the president of the Magic Castle, and his name is Chuck Martinez.
Nice.
And Chuck is, without a doubt, if I had to single one person out who has made more impact in my life than any other human being, it'd be Chuck by a long shot. And the thing that Chuck mentored me on is, number one, believing in myself. He mentored me on grace. While I worked for him, I learned a lot of great things. Unfortunately, it didn't end well. I was in my early 20s and I was a drug addict, and I stole from him. And when he found out that I was stealing from him, rather than call the police or throw me in jail, he just pulled me into his office and he said, "Why would you do that to me, Marshall? I've done all that I can for you." And I, without a doubt, in one of the moments of honesty to myself that I had, I said, "Chuck, I'm sick. I'm in a bad place. I agree. This is the worst thing I could have ever done, especially to you who's given me so much." I said, "Can I pay you back what I've stolen?" He said, "Sure." And I started paying him back. And then I didn't. I just stopped and just disappeared. Fast forward, I don't hear from him when I don't pay him. He just lets it go. He moves on. Fast forward, I have some massive success. I make $22 million in 1 year when my infomercial hits. And I seek him out. And I said, "Chuck, I'm embarrassed to even be making this call, but I need to pay you back the money that I stole with interest." And he said, "You know, Marshall, because I mean, we're talking 15 years later." He said, "The money is meaningless, but if you feel like you need to do something, make a donation in my mother's name to her favorite charity." I said, "More than happy to." So you would think that would be enough. I'm on Montel Williams, and Montel, I'm teaching people how to become millionaires. Montel asks me the question you just asked me: "Did you have any mentors?" And I said, "I had one mentor in particular who changed my whole life on so many levels. And his name was Chuck Martinez." And Montel says, "Well, Marshall, we just happened to have tracked down Chuck, and here he comes." And they bring this man, Chuck Martinez, from backstage, and he sits down to compliment me on what I've accomplished. Yes, I've known Marshall since he was 12. Yes, he was always motivated. In fact, this is how good a human being Marshall is. Marshall, after he became a success, calls me out of the blue and says, "I want to make a donation to your mother's charity. Where do I donate the money?" That was not true. That wasn't true, but he made me look good. Why? Because that's the kind of man he is. And that's the kind of mentor I want to be. One that's filled with grace, one that while I'm very, I'm hard hitting. I don't sidestep or pull any punches. At the same time, though, I would like to think that I'm graceful enough to give people a break and to be sensitive and empathetic and to recognize that most of us are doing the very best we can with what we have. Lord knows I will remember that grace forever.
Beautiful. So you deal with all of these people, and you've got these mentors that have changed your life. If there's one thing that you could say to our audience, what's that limiting belief that gets them stuck, especially about finances and stuff like that? What's this one thing that just people stuck you come across with over and over again?
That there's a finite amount of wealth that if I win, you lose. It's just not the case. It multiplies. And when it multiplies, there's more than enough for everybody. It's not an either or world. It is an and world. So, much like this conversation, I don't talk to a lot of hypnotists. I don't know why. There's a partial reason. I know that I don't talk to a lot of hypnotists. When they come visit me at one of my homes, usually one of the first words out of their mouth starts with an F. And I get it, because their brain is asking the very question that you just asked me, how did you do this? You're a hypnotist. How did you create this 17,000 square foot home? How did you create a house on the beach? How in the world, as a hypnotist, do you travel in private jets? And the answer is, show business is 2 words. Business is the bigger word. And like a lot of hypnotists, I started off my career doing private hypnotherapy, 8 hours plus a day, 5 days a week. At the time, $150 an hour, 23 years old, that's decent money. I'm making $1,500 a day. I'm making $7,500 a week. That's decent money for a 23-year-old. But I don't know about anybody else that's done hypnotherapy or been in the healing arts of any kind, because it's not just hypnotherapy. It's draining. And when you're doing that kind of therapy on a regular basis, at least for me, I took on the burdens that I was releasing them from, that I would feel the weight of whatever angst or anxiousness or emotional turmoil they were going through. And I just reached a point that even though the money was good, I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I realized that the higher and better use of my time would be one to many. So I started off doing fat loss and non-smoking seminars, because that's what hypnotists do. And I had good success, made some good money with that. But I also realized that that was an extremely limited field. And I said, okay, how do I broaden my prospect base? And I said, why don't I teach seminars that not only can help people lose weight or become non-smokers, what if I could show them just how to run their brain in every area, in the area of their relationships, in the area of building wealth, in the area of emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. And I started doing a program back when I was 23 years old that we still do today. In fact, we've got one coming up in July that you guys are welcome to come join me as my guest. I would love to have you there. I'd love to have you see how we've integrated hypnosis into a more mainstream or secular world. And so when I started my career, doing seminars back in my 20s, we had moderate success. I couldn't quite figure it out. And then I stumbled upon a guy named Charles Givens. Charles Givens, you probably know him in the real estate world. Chuck Givens wrote a book called Wealth Without Risk. And what some people don't know about Chuck Givens, is that before the book Wealth Without Risk, he was a personal development speaker. He was a motivational speaker, and he didn't have much success. He writes this book called Wealth Without Risk, and his career goes through the roof. In fact, this is back in the 80s. He had a seminar company doing about $300 million a year. So, multiply it up for current, inflation and current value. We're probably talking about 600, 700 million a year, which would make him the largest seminar company in history. So at any rate, he's doing those kinds of numbers, but he said something one day that turned me as a hypnotist and as a person in the hypnosis business completely. He said, we found we couldn't get people into our courses on personal development. They would only give a little bit of money if it was personal development. But if it was financial development, if it was a hard topic, we could get them to invest whatever we asked. So if we said, hey, we'll help you become healthy for $5,000, they'd go, oh, no, that's a lot of money. But if we said, we can help you make $10,000 for $5,000, the person says, I hand you 5, you give me back 10. Yeah, kind of like that. You're going to hand us 5. We're going to teach you how to go get 10. That was easier. But what he realized, and this is the key point, that once they came in on a financial idea, then it could be pointed out to them that it wasn't a financial challenge, it was a personal challenge. That's what we need to work on so that you can maximize your finances. So the direct answer to your question, why don't more people make more money? It's in their head. They don't think it's possible. They think that people that make a lot of money get lucky. They're not in target-rich environments. Again, I'm going to say this on your program in the prayer that there are other hypnotists watching this show, which I know there are, And I'm going to say this directly, and I don't care if people don't like me. It's kind of like being a parent. There are times when you're a parent that it's not fun to be a parent, and you know your kids don't like you short term. But if you're a good parent, you do it anyway, and you suffer that short term disconnect to make sure that your kids are safe and healthy. Here's what I'm going to say. You asked me at the top of this program, and I don't remember whether it was live or not. You might have been. You asked me about an event. I don't go to a lot of hypnosis events, and here's why. Most hypnotists belong to a group of people that I call New Agers. They're New Agers. They're airy-fairy, and they just want to learn the next hypnotic technique, and they just want to, become better at hypnosis and learn this thing and that therapy, and all well and good. But did you eat today? Are you going to be able to pay your mortgage today? Are you studying any kind of marketing? Are you taking a look at the business model? Is it scalable? Is it saleable? Do you have any kind of products that you can sell and create passive income? Have you created any kind of digital training or courses that can be delivered remotely? Or are you basing your entire business on getting people to come to your office and do a hypnotherapy session for you? I have a student of mine who if I gave you his name, you'd recognize him. He runs a lot of ads on social media, does extremely well. When I met him, he was doing about $300,000 a month in revenue, so about $3.5 million a year. About a third of that is his net revenue because he's selling remote hypnotherapy. He's selling hypnotherapy that's delivered over Zoom, and he sells it for $5,000. He has other hypnotists that do the fulfillment, do the private hypnotherapy sessions. And when he came to my events, I asked him, "Do you do any group events? Do you do any seminars?" And he said, "I don't." And I said, "I'd like to teach you how to do seminars." It changed my world. And you will make more in one weekend with my training than you're making in 3 months of doing everything else you're doing. He said, "Oh yeah, we'll prove it." So we did. He did what I told him to do. He put 68 people into a seminar room for 2.5 days. I showed him the secret sauce. I showed him the magic that we do. And we did $850,000 in gross sales to about 68 people in 2.5 days. Now, granted, my fees are high. We split that revenue, but that's still $400,000 a piece for each of us. And so exactly what I told him. I said, "You're going to make more in 2.5 days than you're making in 3 or 4 months doing what you're doing." Changed his world forever. So again, the thing I will tell any hypnotists out there is the best thing you could do for yourself is to be more mainstream. Do not fall into and again, everybody's style is different. Everybody is unique. The Lord knows I've got my quirky fashion sense and whatever else I am. And so don't listen to me if you don't like what I'm saying. And if you like the fact that I've already made over $600 million, all with hypnosis, mind you, then listen to me when I tell you, take down the rainbow banner from your office. Do not burn incense when your clients arrive. Do not dress like a 70s or an 80s hippie. If you're wanting to upgrade the quality of your clients, meet them on their terms. If you want business clients, make sure you're dressed business appropriate. I'm in a t-shirt right now. You're in a t-shirt right now. We're having an informal conversation. Right. Mostly though, when you see me working, I'm wearing a suit. I'm not just wearing any suit. I'm wearing a suit that is clearly a high-end suit. Mine are custom made, but I'm wearing something that the moment you look at me, whether I open my mouth or not, you say that guy must know something. He must know something. And I think that the biggest challenge that hypnotists have is if every hypnotist doesn't think they're the greatest hypnotist in the world, well, then go see the greatest hypnotist in the world. I'd like to help you. And I meant that. And again, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but my point in that was that everybody that's in this business, it's our business. Everybody in this business should believe and proudly proclaim, "I'm the best in the world." Because if they don't hold that belief, what's the point?
Nice. So let me ask you, you mentioned it. What's the secret sauce?
GTFM. Get the freaking money.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's having a confidence in the fact that you have an offer that's valuable to other people, and the value exceeds what you're asking them for. So without a doubt, the secret sauce in our profession to hypnotist to earn, anybody doing private hypnotherapy can earn a great living. Don't get me wrong. They can earn a great living. And if they're cut out for that, if they're made for that process, then they'll do fine. But if they really want to make big bucks, they've got to ponder the concept of one to many. They've got to ponder the idea that they're working with more than one person at a time.
So when you're doing a group and you got the whole session in there, are you using a lot of NLP?
NLP is a small slice of the hypnosis pie. So if somebody asks me, do you use NLP? Of course, it's a small slice of the hypnosis pie. It's the study of a hypnotist named Milton Erickson by two guys named Grinder and Bandler, whose true skill set was that they were marketers that were smart enough to realize if they reinvented, renamed, and rebranded hypnosis, they could actually speak to a contemporary audience. The other piece that Grinder and Bandler, and then after the fact, Tony Robbins, as he studied what Grinder and Bandler did, is they realized people like acronyms, IBM, ABC, CBS, NLP. Tony has an acronym. Gosh, what is it? What does he call it? I think he calls it NAC or something like that. We teach a science called PND, psycho-neuro-duplication, that when you duplicate someone's psyche, you'll automatically, physically do what they do with their nervous system, and you'll produce similar results. The human mind likes acronyms because it likes things it can remember because it feels a success when it does.
Like your triple P program.
Passion, profit, and power, without a doubt. We did $120 million in sales the first year. We did over $80 million in sales the second year, all on a product that the product itself took me 30 days to build and create. I produced the infomercial for $10,000 of my own dollars. And as they say, the rest is history.
Got to say how long ago that was, because that was on cassette.
What's a cassette, Scott?
Yeah.
I'm way too young. I'm way too young to know what you're talking about.
I think you sold quite a few cassettes there, Marshall. I think you sold.
I'm sorry. I just found a cassette. It's right here under my 8-track.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, you're right. You want to hear a funny story, Scott, about that? So in the infomercial, when I produced it, I didn't have any money. And so I'm doing everything I can to put it together. When we did the infomercial, the product wasn't done yet, but I needed product shots. And so we printed cassettes with the names, with all the imprints of what each side of the cassettes would say.
Yeah, with the different colors.
Yes, the three different colors, passion, profit, and power. You remember this. But the cassettes on the original infomercial that are on the turntable for the close-up shot of them rotating, and I'm talking about the cassettes where they're rotating. If you look carefully at those, there's no tape in the cassettes. They were just shells. But here's something even funnier. For customer service, I put our 800 number on the actual cassettes. So they were on the real cassettes, but they were also on those prototype cassettes. And so at night, when the infomercial started running, we had the 800 number going to a call center where they would take people's orders and, process their credit cards. I would receive calls, the 800 number, because I was working out of my home. And so the customer service number rang at my home. So at night, I would know they were running the commercial. The distributor was running the commercial because my phone would ring nonstop. Everybody was looking at the infomercial, thinking they were clever, calling the number on the cassette rather than the one on the screen. And so at night, I would lay there. At first, it was just annoying. And then when I realized what it was, I would lay in bed at night and I would grin from ear to ear, more money and more money and more money.
And
He's got that Pavlov's with the ring.
It reminds me
exactly.
It reminds me of the empty shell game. How you had the shells going around like the old. So the magician side.
Yeah, but I think, I think, Jason, one of the other things, because you asked me, how do we help people become more successful, is you've got to be willing to risk. No risk means no goodies. And you've got to be willing to throw noodles against the wall. You got to be willing to experiment. This hypnotist that I was talking about, he's doing hypnotherapy via Zoom. And I would have never thought to do that. I wouldn't have thought people would buy, but they're buying $5,000 programs from him. They're buying a package of 6 hypnotherapy sessions for $5,000. It says a lot, and again, I'm the first person to admit that I don't know things. And I certainly didn't know that anybody would respond to that kind of an ad campaign.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So Scott, do you have any questions you want to throw?
Oh man, there's so much I could sit there and talk with him about. You've done it. You've done so much. You've got so many different titles. Like I think your current title is the #1 platform closer of all time.
Yeah, just ask me.
World's fastest hypnotist.
Yeah,
Master of influence.
There we go. Keep them coming.
Millionaire maker. Stand up with a
me.
shirt. Millionaire maker. There you are.
That'd be me, baby. That'd be me.
So explain to me that you've got a black hoodie that I saw you wear that had the cent sign equals CM squared. What is that?
Certified millionaire maker. C equals M squared. Certified millionaire maker. So that's what it stands for. It's just a cute logo that has people talking and asking me questions about the logo.
Exactly.
So we have
That's awesome.
We have tons of hypnotists that do watch this. We have a lot of hypnotists that watch.
Good.
How can they get a hold of you if they want to change that mindset and get to?
I would love to. Again, I come from a place of abundance. I don't compete with anybody. When this hypnotist, he actually came to my Turning Point event. He sat in the audience. I recognized him from his ads. And when I saw him in the audience, he approached me afterwards. He says, "Are you cool with me being here?" I said, "Why wouldn't I be?" He said, "Sometimes people think I'm coming in, that I might be ripping them off or stealing their material." I said, "Of course you are." And he kind of looked at me puzzled. I said, "Why wouldn't you? That's what mentors are for. So you paid for the course. You have every right to be here and take notes and learn whatever you learn and take it wherever you'll take it. I'm not offended at all. The day that I'm concerned about you making $1 thinking that it's taking it from my pocket is the day I need to fully retire." So how do they get a hold of me? They can go to sylver.com, SYLVER.com. And they can certainly find out about me there. But I have a gift for the hypnotists watching this show. And when will this air? When will this be published?
Probably Friday.
So we have an event coming up, as we already mentioned, in Las Vegas. It's 2.5 days. It's called Turning Point. The retail for those tickets are $3,000 a piece. But I would like to offer a very special gift to the first 10 people watching your show. They want to come out and see how I've taken hypnosis and put a really solid business spin on it. If they'd like to come join me with a guest, I'll give them each 2 tickets apiece. If they call 1-800-92-POWER, 1-800-92-POWER, and tell them they saw me on your show and they'd like 2 Turning Point tickets, we'll give them those 2 tickets worth $6,000, totally free. And like I said, I would love to have the 2 of you come out and join me as well. That would be, I'd love to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank
you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Marshall. That's wonderful. And I'll post that all over the place so that we get an opportunity to see that. Now, one more thing, the words of wisdom. What are your most important words of wisdom that you can give everybody out here watching this?
We've talked about it a lot during this conversation. What you believe to be true is true for you. What you focus on expands. Get out of your head, get into other people's lives, solve their challenges. When you solve their challenges, your life will get better. You reached out, you asked me to be on the show. I was excited to be on the show. I love talking with other hypnotists. I really want people to do well in this profession, because it's done so much for me. It saved my life. Hypnosis not only saved my life, it made me wealthy. It introduced me to my wife. I met my wife at one of my seminars. I hypnotized her without her knowing it while the event was going on, to walk up to me on the first break and ask me out on a date. And, over 17 years later, we are going strong. She's the best decision I ever made in my entire life. All three of our babies were born via hypnosis at home in the bathtub. No drugs, no doctors, no pain. In fact, my wife orgasmed while she was giving birth to all three of our children. And you would think that would be a good thing, but right after my wife gave birth to our daughter, our last child, the youngest child, she immediately wanted another one. And I'm not sure she meant another baby in the moment. So the words of wisdom is, number one, be focused. What you focus on expands. Number two, some is better than none. And although it may seem like your plans are overwhelming, maybe you want to take off a substantial amount of weight. Okay, put one walk in. You don't have to take off all 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 pounds. Just get a walk in. Just make a better choice at your meal. You don't have to make $1 million overnight. But what you want to do is start asking yourself the question, what can I do differently? Because what you're looking for is there. It's just in a place you haven't looked yet. So you need to keep looking in places you haven't looked. And then finally, be absolutely confident and certain that it's an abundant universe and that there's a way for you to win that is different than how you've been doing it. Yet it still works. It definitely works.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And it's been wonderful having you here. I know you got an appointment to go to, but we're just we're honored to have you as our guest. We thank you for that wonderful gift that you've offered us and our viewers. And it's been fabulous. Thank you for allowing us to travel down your magical psyche highway. And thank you for being raw and frank with us and telling us the real story from Marshall Sylver. And we appreciate that. So thank you.
You are awesome. I'm very grateful to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, do you have anything you want to add?
And just we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. Until we meet in person, I look forward to seeing you guys in July in Vegas at Turning Point.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming to the show and watching us, all the people out there. We certainly appreciate you having there. If you like us, give us the thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, just give us the thumbs down. We don't care. We're just glad you're here. Share us, send it everywhere, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks for joining us.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.